It is time. It is time. Oh, baby. It is time. NHL franchise mode. NHL 21 franchise mode, to be exact. Now, in previous videos, I've talked about some of the changes that we're going to be seeing here, but of course, the deep dive has arrived. So let's get right down to business. Not going to waste your time. Let's talk about what we are going to see here in NHL 21's franchise mode. We start things off with the changes to deadline day. Of course, we knew there were changes. You know, if you've been paying attention, deadline day is a thing. But the first real change, of course, is that we have different settings. Gone are the days of champion, contender, rebuild. Now, pretty straightforward. Only 4 different settings that you have the option to control. You can list yourself as an all-out seller, a conservative seller, conservative buyer, or an all-out buyer. Those decisions will influence what type of offers you receive on deadline day, which to me is fantastic. It's just kind of a streamlined version of the trade block, which is nice. And then again, deadline day is a thing. You have the opportunity. It starts at 6 a.m. and goes until noon, and you have the ability to, work out the deals. You don't have the phones, but you have the unlimited amount of moves. Of course, on the screen, you get to see the top players available. You can look at every individual team. You can see so much information on the bottom. Of course, if trades break from other teams, you'll see that on the bottom ticker. It's fantastic. I mean, obviously, we've been waiting for deadline day to actually be a thing again in franchise mode for a long time, basically this entire console generation, and finally, it is a thing. And the cool thing, I would say, is that player value does fluctuate depending on what happens on the day. If there are 2 top defensemen and one of those defensemen happens to go, that remaining defenseman's value, it goes up because he is the last remaining option available. So very happy with that. And again, like I said, so much information that you can get there. You can look at all the available players, the top 10s who are still available, players that teams have elected to not get rid of. There is quite a bit there. And as mentioned, very, very happy with this. It was long overdue. And of course, once deadline day finishes, you get taken to a summary page where you get to, again, recap everything that went down. So that, I would say, is the big feature for franchise mode this year. Deadline day being a thing yet again. And as I've mentioned, I'm very happy with it. Franchise mode wasn't the sole focus this year, but I've said this time and time again, every mode got a little bit of love and attention this year, aside from Be a Pro, which got the big overhaul. I'm very impressed, given that this is the last game before we move on to next gen with the NHL series. We could have easily seen them just phone it in, and they absolutely did not do that. So I give them credit where it is due. One of the other things that has been added, the record book. It's not only in Be a Pro, but it is in franchise mode as well. This includes all-time NHL career stats, as you're seeing on screen right now. And this has basically everything that you'd want. The games played, goalie games played, goals, points, shutouts, wins, 50-goal seasons, 100-point seasons. Basically everything that you'd want to keep track of is there. They also have the individual season stats to keep track, again, of points, goals, most shutouts in a season, stuff like that. It also keeps track of all-time rookie stats, again, for the same major categories you would expect. And every team, you can see the franchise leader in those stats as well. So finally, you're going to have that feeling of like, oh, okay, here we go. I can properly track down whether or not Ovi's going to break the all-time goal record. If you run an expansion franchise, you'll know by the end of it who your all-time point leader is, who your all-time goal scorer is, which I think, again, is just absolutely tremendous and will add so much to those long-term runs, especially for someone like me who has the Draft to Glory series. If we run a full 25 years, we're going to know at the end, okay, here were the best players, no doubt about it. So very, very happy about this. Yet again, it's a small touch that I think is well overdue. Some of the other things that they've also added, multiple positions. I've talked about this for years, and it's finally in. Every player, if necessary, now has multiple positions listed. So as you see on your screen, JT Miller, center left wing. Someone like Claude Giroux will be set up the same way. So the AI has more options when it helps to appropriately build up their lineup. And of course, the big thing is here, no longer from within franchise mode can you change player types or positions. It's locked in once you start franchise mode. So JT Miller, you're not going to be able to play him on a right wing and get a positive bonus. He's a center or he's a left wing. It's pretty straightforward. Of course, you can still edit stuff from the main menu if you choose to do that, if you're not happy with what EA has assigned in terms of positions and player types. But the point is, it's locked in once you're in franchise mode, so it's very important, of course, to pay attention to what you have. And again, this will help out the AI builds. Another thing that's been added, draft class quality and generated prospect quality. So when it comes to the draft class, you have the ability to set the frequency of strong drafts occurring throughout franchise mode. So if it's set to high, you're going to see strong draft classes, a lot of depth in those draft classes more consistently. If you set it to a low end, it's going to be a rarity that you have a draft that's as highly touted as, say, like the 2003 NHL draft that, of course, that is always brought up. And then, of course, you can handle the individual prospect quality. You can set whether or not there are more high-end players or if those gems are even more difficult to find. Another thing, of course, draft pick logic has been updated. Computer-controlled teams, I'm going to read directly from this, but CPU-controlled teams will refrain from putting their draft picks on the trade block so early in the season. So you can't just look at okay, this team's going to be garbage. Granted, their trade values is always high, but basically teams are going to be a little bit smarter with their draft picks, which is absolutely needed. And the last major thing here is a revamp of trade value for players. So, again, trying to get someone like Connor McDavid, it was possible. It's going to be even more difficult. Now, they've also adjusted the value of certain positions. Centers and defenders will see an increase in overall value, while goalies and wingers are going to have slightly less value than in the previous years, which makes a lot of sense and, again, lines up with the modern-day NHL. So, franchise mode in NHL 21. Is it reinventing the wheel? No, but we are getting a lot of quality of life improvements that we have been asking for a long time. Again, the revamp of trade values, certainly needed. The draft pick logic, certainly needed. The customization of being able to set draft class quality and prospect quality, certainly needed. NBA's had that for God knows how long at this point. Multiple positions, certainly needed. The record book, certainly needed, and adds to the story, really, of every franchise mode. And then again, deadline day is finally a thing once more. So if you ask me, knowing how many changes they made to other modes, but they still got around to doing a decent amount for franchise mode, big thumbs up from me. Very much looking forward to being able to start up on NHL 21 right here on this channel. I think it's going to be a very, very good year. But let me know what you think. Are you over the moon with this like I am? Are you a bit disappointed, which, again, in my opinion, would be slightly unfair, given what else they have changed around the game? Let me know, though. What do you think? Are you excited for franchise mode in NHL 21? I look forward to talking to you guys down in the comments and seeing what you have to say. I will catch you all later. NHL 21 news is almost done and dusted because the game comes out very, very soon.